First of all, let me express my gratitude to Professor Miroslav Kukur and the University of Wroclaw for giving this wonderful opportunity to make a presentation in this seminar. My presentation is titled Performative Cultures in North Kerala, a Historical Perspective. Let me begin with a quote from Richard Schechner. In many cultures, performing is the core of ritual practices. Early rituals of indigenous people were in their own habitat exclusively to the community. Each tribe has their own specific rituals and performances related to their identity and life world. Indigenous people, Adivasis and Dalits of our country, like other counterparts in different parts of the world, had their own rituals. Later, customs developed to protect rituals. This is related to their spirituality, religion, and worldview. Wherever human being lived and civilization developed, there were rituals and performances in various forms. This is a quote from Jerzy Rutowski. There are two arguments regarding the origin of ritual performances in India. One argues that these performances developed from classical traditions, Vedic, Sanskrit traditions, or Aryan traditions. The argument is made by Balwant Garga in his book Folk Theatre of India. The second argument is that there were indigenous rituals and performing traditions even before Aryan immigration. A broad idea about the cultural history of Kerala is essential for understanding its society and culture. Most important even in this regard is the migration of Namboodiris since 1st century AD. Gradually, there took cultural interaction with the indigenous communities, there were mutual influences, and the consolidation of Namboodiris happened around 10th century AD. Gradually, they gained ownership on land, control of social, political, and cultural aspect of the entire region. Kerala cultural scenario witnessed gradual Hinduization, Brahminization of indigenous ritual performances, and the Namboodiris incorporated, codified, defined, misinterpreted, interpolated into indigenous myths, rituals, and forms of worship. Thus, all indigenous deities were interpreted by Brahmins according to Hindu epics and pantheon of gods and goddesses. Kavus, natural spaces of worship by the indigenous people of our place, became kshetrams, temples, and indigenous deities were replaced with Aryan Hindu gods and goddesses. Gavin Flood, in his book An Introduction to Hinduism, called this process as spousification. This is how he defines. All indigenous deities were related to classical deities as mother or sister or avatars. Even Buddha, who critiqued the Hindu Brahminic rituals, was interpreted as avatara of Hindu gods. Indigenous people thus lost autonomy over their own traditions, rituals, and knowledge systems. Dominant historians, anthropologists, and folklorists recorded, documented, and interpreted indigenous myths, orality, which was preserved through their memories from Hindu Brahminic point of view. Academia also endorsed such positions. Thus, rituals becomes art or folk arts which can be performed anywhere. Such decontextualized performances were promoted by cultural industry and globalization. Kerala could be divided into 4 cultural zones: Travancore, Cochin, Central Kerala, and maybe South Malabar and North Malabar. North Kerala comprised of 5 districts: Kasaragod, Kannur, Kozhikode, Malappuram, and Wayanad. North Kerala has its own cultural identity. It was under the rule of Kolatharis, the local Brahmin feudal ruler. Kolatiris, the local rulers, enjoyed power and control over the life of the marginalized. They had control on their cultural expressions, hence they used indigenous people's knowledge for their own sake. For example, there were rituals to ward away evils, propitiate local deities, protect crops, protect cattle, and so on. In the name of patronization or patronage, the hegemonic voices appropriated their voices gradually. Mainstream Brahmin upper caste scholars observe that the ruler of Kolattunadu, that is Kolaturi, had codified the rituals, beliefs, taboos, and folk performing arts which has been performed by the marginalized people of this region. I disagree with this position. My argument is that in the name of patronage, indigenous peoples, their ritual traditions have been appropriated, interpolated, and misinterpreted by the dominant cultural representatives. I have argued this in my book on Theyyam. For example, it is Mannarakkal Gurikal, the Mannan performer, who had the knowledge systems passed from his community, and this knowledge was appropriated by the Kolaturi in the name of patronage. Samudri Raja, the ruler of Nidiyiruppu Swarupam in Kozhikode, had similar patronage and control of the cultural performances of classical and marginalized communities in Kozhikode, Malappuram, and Palakkad districts. Let me now give you some idea about the infinite variety of indigenous ritual performances of North Kerala. As I said, we had performances in different zones with slight similarities and differences. We can divide, for convenience sake, the entire region like Malabar, Travancore, South Kerala, North Kerala, Central Kerala. We can also divide the entire performances into indigenous performances or tribal performances, Dalit performances, or performances by other communities like minorities like Muslims or Christians. I have included samples in my presentation about these communities. All tribal ritual dances have the structure of performing arts. They have dialogues, costumes, music, body movements, and so on. Early indigenous performing spaces, there was no division between actors or performers and the audience. Men and women participated. Most of them get possessed in the process of ritual performances. Later, only men were seen get possessed and get the leadership in the ritual performances. Contemporary ritual performances were also performed in decontextualized stages, and there were difference between or a gap between the spectators and performers. These are almost done for tourist purpose. Of the major forms of indigenous rituals, first, of course, is the spirit or ancestor worship. This also includes worshiping of nature, tree, and animals. For instances of animal dances, we have the Malayars, the Kadars, and Kuruchiyars. All of them are tribal communities. There are also worships like Maankali or Kuran Kali, Kuran is pig, and Tavalakali, which is frog, all performed by various indigenous communities of Kerala. There is also another form called Elele Karadi, which is also enactment of how the bears were hunted and caught, etc. There were Narikutu or Naripatu, which is again related to the hunting of tigers, which is practiced by, which enacts how the tiger is trapped, caught in a net, and killed with spears. So there were many forms of ritual performances involving hunting, war, and worshipping of animals. Detailed study of the kinetography may be conducted by people, experts here in this university, including Professor Kokor. The second major form of worship, or maybe the first The most important is mother worship, which includes worshipping of earth. All tribes and castes had their own deities to worship, and their pattern of performance were also varied. Prominent among the deities were Mother Goddess. It's known as Kali or Chamundi, later Bhagavati, with regional variations. Kaliyatam is a major performance which is again related to the worship of Kali in ancient South India, and Kerala also has a continuation of this. Kalamedutthu Pattu, which is one of the earliest performances in Kerala, was actually performed by Puluvan community, which is one of the Dalit community. But gradually, the Nambudiris appropriated this form, and Puluvans now became just paid laborers. But the control of the performance is rests with the upper caste community. Karuniliyatam is another art form which was performed by the Parayas, which deals with the origin of the earth. They were saying first there were water, then half of it became land, then there was forest, mountains on the land, and from the mountains sprouted two leaves, bud and flower. Karnili Yamma was born from this flower. So probably we can do research on these areas and how indigenous performing traditions contain the origin of the earth or the world according to their own knowledge systems. Indigenous people believe that illness, famine, pestilence are caused by evil spirits, and hence they have various ritual performances to ward off the evil. They have war dances, but these all rituals gradually evolved into art or performing arts. There were also festival dances, which is becoming more popular nowadays. All performances can be divided as ritualistic, non-ritualistic, secular, etc. I will give some examples of this. Ritualistic performances includes devotional and magical. Among the devotional performances, I take the example of Buddha worship in Tulunadu. For example, I have included some video clips on Adivedan, Atikalanja and Koragaja, which is performed by the Dalit communities in Tulunadu, and also some performances from Malayan, Nalke and Mavilan community, which I will show you now. There are also clippings of Theyyam, especially one. I am included Kandakarnan. also examples of Tira. And also Pudamdira and Komati, just to give you an idea about the various performances related to rituals in South Kerala. In the magical category, I have included Kalampatu, which is also known as Sarpamdullal or Kolamdullal, which is also given a sample of the video of Sarpan Thullal. magical rituals are widely performed by the Keralites to beget children. Most of them are practiced for barren women for fertility. Sarpa yajnas are performed in Kerala even today. Among the non-ritualistic performances, I have included Kolkali. I have included a tribal Kolkali in the video. There is also the Vepu practiced by the Muslim community, and also a ritual performance by the Muslim community which is called Kutturatib, which you can listen to, watch while the video is performed. The Christian community also had their own, not exactly ritualistic, but non-ritualistic practices, which is performed along with festivals. And I have included Margam Kali and Chavittu Nadagam as instances of non-ritual performances.
വിശ്വമിടങ്കയിലായൊരുവൻ ഇതിയുടെ അരവൻ ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടാകും വിധി പോലെ
തുങ്കനായി വാഴുകിன்ற തങ്കാമൂടിയരസൻ തുങ്കനായി വാഴുകിன்ற തങ്കാമൂടിയരസൻ ആണ്ടോനാരുൾ പടേക്ക് മണ്ഡലമീതിലെങ്കും ആണ്ടോനാരുൾ പടേക്ക് ദിഗണത്തം കർദി തത്തരി താന്ത്രത് തകതരി താന്ത്രത് തൊന്തരി താന്ത്രത് തകതരി താന്ത്രത് താം കർദി തത്തരികിട തകതരികിട തൊന്തരികിട തകതരികിട താം തീം തായ് തമൃതത്തിഗണത്തം തമൃതത്തിഗണത്തം താവിന്ദഗത്തം വനൽ കോടും പരി നിമ്പമായിன்று
Among the dramatic performances, which are of course non-ritualistic as well, I have included Porattu Nadagam, Kurathiyatam and Kakiricha Nadagam as instances. You can see the video clippings.
നിങ്ങളാടുവിൻ പാടുവിൻ നല്ല പാട്ടുകൾ
നിങ്ങളാടുവിൻ പാടുവിൻ നല്ല പാട്ടുകൾ
പാടുവിൻ പാടുവിൻ നല്ല പാട്ടുകൾ
കുളമ്പു നല്ല സിംഗപ്പൂരു ദേശമെല്ലാം പോയി കുളമ്പു നല്ല സിംഗപ്പൂരു ദേശമെല്ലാം പോയി
നല്ലതുപോൽ കളിച്ചിടുന്ന മംഗമാരെ
കേൾക്കാം
നല്ലതുപോൽ കളിച്ചിടുന്ന മംഗമാരെ കേൾക്കാം
മടിച്ചിടവേ കളിച്ചിടുവിൻ മാലോകർ പൊലിച്ചിടട്ടെ മടിച്ചിടാതെ കളിച്ചിടുവിൻ മാലോകർ പൊലിച്ചിടട്ടെ
പാടുവിൻ
പാടുവിൻ നല്ല പാട്ടുകൾ
കാരണവാദനെയും വാണിയെയും
കൂപ്പി
കാരണവാദനെയും വാണിയെയും കൂപ്പി
വീരനാം നളന്റെ ഭാര്യ സുന്ദരി ദമയന്തി വീരനാം നളന്റെ ഭാര്യ സുന്ദരി ദമയന്തി
കാന്തനെ കാണാതുഴന്നു കാട്ടിൽ നടക്കും
Muduvan Kutu, Kutu performed by Muduvans, Mannan Kutu performed by Mannan community. Mannan Kutu is more important because it also traces how the wandering indigenous community transformed themselves into slash and burn cultivation. We call it Punam Krishi. So this performing enacts reaping, gathering of food, their marriage, their death, all aspects of their life. There is also special occasions in which they perform Kutu at their own deities. They submit all food grains, agricultural product to the deity and pray for the same in the next season also. There is a long preparation for the performing space also. The myth usually related to Chilapadigaram and the story of Kannagi and Kovilan. All aspects of a drama is visible in these performances. Kali, as I said, means play, different kinds of play. Mannarakkal is another most prominent performance, non-ritualistic performances. It means pastime or chat. This dramatic presentation is filled with dialogues and wit. It is normally being performed by the Polaya community, performed in association with Garbha Bali, a pregnancy ritual. Normally, there will be 12 members dancing, standing in a circular shape, wearing branches of trees on head, waist, and hand, reminds us of hill tribes. I have included a video clip on this. Probably you can listen to it. In Mannarakkal, the actors dance in the guise of Mavilan and Mavilati, Mapula and Chotiam, accompanied by drum beating and music and songs. Mavilan and Mavilati, after clearing the slash and burn cultivation, which we call Punam cultivation, they move up to measuring of the grain. Men act as female. There is no female participating in this. In the process, like other Poratos, in the process of enactment, they criticizes the activities and actions of the upper caste and even the caste society at random. Another form is Artam, which means dance. We have a ritual called Kodamuri Artam, which is usually being performed in the October. Again, these performers visit house by house, and these are performed by Panans and Malayas. Kodamuriyatam is performed to ensure prosperity of the entire community, growth of wealth, food grains, and cattle wealth, etc. This is also performed in different parts of Kerala, especially during the month of July. Of the many ritual performances of the marginalized people, Adivasis and Dalits in Kerala, Gaddiga and Mari Artam deserves special attention as they are performed for exorcising the evil and to ensure the well-being of the entire society. I will show a video clip of Gaddiga for 5 minutes. You can listen to it, and then probably you can raise questions during the question and answer session.
നിങ്ങളെ വിളിക്കാം. ഓ അങ്ങനെ തന്നെ.
അങ്ങനെ
പിന്നിപ്പം നാങ്കപ്പാണ് ബന്ധനിപ്പം നാങ്കപ്പ നാങ്കപ്പനെ വേണ്ട വിട്ടുകാവ പറ്റ എന്നാൽ കളി തമാശക്ക് കല്ലല്ല.
അല്ലല്ല ഇന്നലെ അച്ഛനും മാമന ആ മതില്ല. ഓ
കളിക്കാലോ
പറഞ്ഞു ആച്ചാ പൊറപ്പ ഇന്നലെ കാണിക്കന്നപ്പ ഓപ്പ നമുക്ക് വെച്ചും എന്റെ നമുക്ക് ഒരു ആച്ചാ പൊറപ്പ അരി എന്നിങ്ങ പാടും. പിന്നെ ഒരു കാര്യം ഉണ്ടാക്കുമ്പോ കണ്ണും കാട്ടും നേരം വരുന്നാകുമ്പോ ഇല്ല കാലം അത്ത കാലം എന്നാണ് ഓരോരോ കാലത്തിൽ ബന്ധു കാണില്ല. ആച്ചാ പുറക്കണം.
ഇന്നലെ നിങ്ങളുടെ നടുവിൻ്റെ വേറെ ഇന്നും ഞാൻ
Gadiga is performed by the Adiya community. They are most often in Wayanad. This is a community ritual in which they believe that all the evils affecting in the form of pestilence or famine or drought can be solved if they perform this Gadiga. This is again an exorcising ritual. This is performed even now by the Adiya and Ravala communities in Wayanad. Marithayam is performed by the Polayas, especially in the Payyanur area. It's also to eradicate evil influences. Especially this is performed in Madaikavu by the Polayas in that area. This is also performed for the well-being of the entire community, cattle wealth, health, and so on. Let me conclude by saying that the performative culture of North Kerala has origins in the ritual practices of indigenous people inhabited there at least 1,000 years ago. Since the Brahmin Nambudiri migration to northern Kerala around 9th and 10th century, there has been a gradual Hinduization of rituals and increasingly being appropriated by the dominant cultural discourse. Along with that, the ritual performances related to the indigenous people and their life world have moved to the public and open spaces, far away from the cultural context, and the forces of globalization is posing threat to this indigenous ritual tradition. Just viewed as another art form nowadays, and it is being commoditized and commercialized in the contemporary cultural scenario. Let me also share my suggestions for further research. Scholars who are interested in these cultural ritual traditions could take themselves to the study of the rich oral traditions, the body kinesics, which includes indigenous martial arts developed as a result of for the necessity of survival. For example, acts, rituals involving hunting, agriculture, etc. can be studied in detail. You can also study how the indigenous ritual performing traditions reflecting a unique spirituality has been incorporated into the dominant Hindu discourse over the years. Thank you very much.